Our thematic text for the day is taken from Psalm 139, verses 1 through 4. I'll be reading from the English Standard Version, and it reads as thus: O Lord, you have searched me and know me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from afar. You search out my path and my lying down, and are acquainted with all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, behold, O Lord, you know it altogether. When I was about 16 or 17 years old, I used to go out and I would do things that I knew my parents wouldn't be pleased with. But somehow, for some reason, I would be so satisfied. So consequently, I would go home and I'd be kind of like diddy bopping on in the house because I was just so pleased with myself because I thought I'd gotten away with something and that no one knew what I had done. Invariably on those days, on those nights, when I would walk into the house, my mother would say to me, "Where you been?" And she would say it with a tone as if to imply she knew not only where I had been, but she knew what I had done. Consequently, growing up, there were times when I thought my mother was omniscient. I thought she knew everything. And at times it kind of scared me. But my mother didn't know everything. My mother just knew her child. She knew what I was capable of. She knew what I would do, and she knew what I would not do. She knew that when I came in that house, bouncing and so satisfied with myself, that I must have been up to something that I had no business doing. She wasn't omniscient. She just knew her child. And in the text, our text for today, David the psalmist. Now, you know David, right? I'm talking about David, the giant killer. I'm talking about David, a man after God's own heart. I'm talking about David, the wife stealer, the husband killer. That very same David writes in Psalm 39 that God knows us. He knows us intimately. And that there's nothing we can do that can surprise God. He goes on in Psalm 139 to say that when we sit down and get up, God actually knows each and every time that we do that. He says he knows our path, he knows our lying down and our getting up. He says the Lord knows every word that comes off of my tongue before I even speak. That's how intimately God knows us. God knows us all together, and in spite of that, in spite of knowing all of our devious little thoughts, in spite of knowing each and every time we go somewhere we ain't got no business going, each and every time that we say something that we have no business saying, God already foreknew it, and in spite of that, he still loves us. In spite of that, he still calls us. And in spite of that, he still uses us. Because God knows us intimately. And just like my mama, she may not have been surprised by some of the things that I did. She may not have been enthused by some of the things that I did. But because she loved me, she continued to encourage me. She continued to bless me around the house. She continued to shower her love upon me. And my friends, I want you to understand and know that God still loves you. He loves you in spite of all your craziness, in spite of all your deviousness, in spite of your mistakes. He still loves you. And I know I've said this many times to you before, but one of the devil's greatest tools is he wants to whisper in your ear, you're not good enough. He wants to whisper in your ear, God doesn't love you. And most of all, he wants to whisper in your ear, God can't use you. God sent me here today to tell you that there is nothing you can do that can surprise him. That before you were born, he knew every thought, every action, and every deed that you would do. And he still called you. He can still use you. And most importantly of all, my friend, he still loves you. you.